now?
There we go. How's everything
Yeah.
sound?
Sounds good. I need to check it on my phone, though, is what I need to do just to make sure that we're both sounding good. So let me just do that real quick. All right, give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Dave.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I think we're good. Yep, I think we're good. Unfortunately, we just have to do that, folks. Because the last time Ron was on, we sounded good, and then it
Yeah.
went bad. As everyone said, you couldn't hear him. I think sometimes what happens on my computer too is the Windows turns the microphone level down, but you can't hear it. But what's going out is soft, and that's what happened. So I think we're good to go now. All right, I'm going to hit the record button, and we're going to start recording here. And this is going to be episode 303. So here we go in 3, 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave, and I am joined by another Dave in this one. This is Dave Little returning to the show. Welcome back to D to
Hey.
D.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Great to be here.
So this is episode 303, and we're going to be talking about playing lesser known games. Now, Dave just played a whole bunch of hockey. He's been playing a bunch of hockey, actually a lot since playing at D2D Con last May in Connecticut. He's been playing some hockey. I've been playing some basketball since D2D Con in May. And so we're going to compare notes. We're going to compare notes about playing lesser known games and meaning lesser known games to us as far as like sports games is what that is. And I want to talk to him about his recent hockey project and why he decided on that. What was the deal with that? So we're going to get into that with Dave here shortly. Anyway, ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com. That is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. Digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. Dave, before we get going here, what I would like to do is ask you one question here. And it's not the same question we asked the last time, okay?
All right. Yeah.
This question's going to be, if you could go back in time and change the result of any sporting event, what would that change be?
I would change the finals of the Olympic basketball in '72.
Is
The
that the
the
one they
the
cheated?
Yeah, that was the one with the Russia USA. I was a very very young sports fan at the time. I was just watching basketball for the first time, and it was so upsetting that that turned out the way it did.
So something where they inbounds the ball and it got knocked away and the game ended, but they redid it. Is that what happened?
Yeah, they I was just a kid, but they restarted the game 2 or 3 times and kept restarting it until they got the outcome that they wanted. And yeah, that was awful. The other thing I remembered about that game was the U.S. had a guy by the name of Doug Collins.
Okay.
He was a shooting guard. He was at Southern Illinois or Illinois State or someplace like that, and he got just hammered by some Russian dude, and he got up and he made free throws, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And he became kind of my one of my very early sports heroes. And then, sure enough, he got drafted into the NBA. I think he might have even been the number one overall pick, and he played in Philadelphia, and um, then he went on to become a coach and coach the Bulls, and yeah, but I'll always remember, Doug Collins getting knocked down, and he hit his head, I think, on the basket support, and got up and made his free throws, and I just thought that was the coolest thing.
Oh man, yeah. That I don't remember much about that, but I mean, that's all the Russians ever did was kind of cheat. If you remember the 72 Summit Series between Canada and Russia, that was the 8-game series. They played 4 in Canada, then 4 in Russia, and they did it in like August, September before the hockey season. So, and it was supposed to just be the first time these teams really met, the best of the best. They wanted to see how good the Russians were, and it turned out to be a bloodbath of a series. It really
Oh my.
did. Yeah, the Russians took 2 games in Canada, and Canada went over to Russia, and they were playing over there. And it come down to the last game. I think it was 3-3 or 2-2 or something like that. Whatever it was almost tied. If Canada won, they would outright win the series, and if Russia won, then I think it would have been tied. And it was tied late in the game. and Canada scored with a little over a minute left, 2 minutes left, something like that, late in the game to take the lead, and the goal judge wouldn't put on the light, and they didn't wanna count the goal. Yeah.
No.
Yep. Yep. It was pretty bad, and, they did count it, though,
Oh,
and,
that's horrible.
it was so obvious. They scored a goal, and they're like, they wouldn't count it. It was kinda weird. But, anyway, Canada did win the game, and they won the series, and it's a very famous one there. But, yeah, so that was '72. It must have been the thing in '72 to start cheating a
Yeah, it was
little bit.
the height of the Cold War.
Yes, it was. And the shenanigans going on in the hotel rooms, phones going off in the middle of the night so the Canadian team couldn't sleep. And yeah, it was pretty. I think they confiscated a bunch of their beer or their steaks or something. It was they brought their own food and they were taking it away. Oh, it was yeah, quite the deal. It really was. So anyway, well, while we're talking about hockey, so you're the basketball guy. You got the Friday night
I
basketball
am.
thing that you did for a while, and you're hoping to start
Yep.
up again, and that's your sport. What was it about hockey that you wanted to give a try on the tabletop? So, what was it about playing a lesser known game like hockey that appealed to you?
Yeah, I mean, there is just so much passion for hockey all around the gaming community. You know, you're a big hockey guy, and good hockey games that are available, and it was just something that I wanted to give a whirl, just because I wanted it to. I was hoping to get more familiar with the NHL and the players and the product, so that if I were to pick up and start watching hockey today, I'd have some familiarity with it. I mean, we had minor league hockey in Columbus growing up. We had minor league hockey in Dayton. I've been to dozens of hockey games in my day, so I'm familiar with the sport. I know face-offs and offsides and penalties, and I have a good level of familiarity with the gameplay, but just not with the players. And I couldn't sit down and watch a hockey team and know who to root for, and so I wanted to get more in touch with the current players, and yeah, because there is so much passion for hockey around the community, and everybody loves their hockey games, and I wanted to sort of dip my toe in that.
Do you think there are more, as far as tabletop games, not so much the computer, but I suppose you could sprinkle in computer if you wanted to this question. Do you think there's more basketball games available for us to play or more hockey games available for us to play?
Probably more hockey. If I tried to name the ones that you've talked about on your channel and we hear about around the community, it feels like hockey is more prevalent than basketball. Um, I'm a big strat guy, and just over the years, it's evident that strat sells well. Well, baseball is the number one strat game, and football is second, and then I think hockey still sells better than basketball among strat players. So I think there's probably a preponderance of hockey players in the community over basketball players.
Okay. What basketball games have you played? We'll start with basketball, then we'll move into hockey. So, what are some of the basketball you played, and what are some of the ones you really like?
Yeah, I have been a player in a strat basketball league
Okay.
on the computer.
Mhm.
And I've been doing that. Gosh, we started that in '96 and just sunsetted it the past year. So, for the past 20 some years, I have been playing strat basketball on the computer. And that has really scratched my itch for basketball. I haven't done a lot of tabletop basketball until Play came out with their Highlight Maker Hoops game. So I've been
Mhm.
playing that. And then I want to when we go to D2D look at ST's game and some of the other games, and kind of get something new. But yeah, most of my playing history with simulated basketball has been strat on the computer.
Have you were in Connecticut with me right before we left. Somebody was playing, and I sorry if I forget the person's name. I think it was Joe. One of the Joes, I think, was playing bank shot basketball. Me and you kind of
Mhm.
sat in and watched that. I love that game immediately. I went out and bought it and have been playing it. Have you checked out that one at all after D2D?
Just from what we saw at D2D Con, and I really liked it. I liked, like you said, how all the players were out there, and you didn't have to sub guys in and out, and the play-by-play deck sort of handled, when the ball's going to go to the, one of the backup guys, and how that's going to work, and so yeah, I thought that was a really neat game.
Okay. All righty. So you decided to give hockey a try. All right. What was some of the hockey games that you were looking at first?
I have kind of toyed with hockey here and there over the years. I have a card and dice set of Strat that I tinkered around with a little bit, but never really got into because it would ask you to make a strategic decision, and I had no idea. Do you want to penetrate or do you want to take the shot? I have no idea.
Mhm.
What the strategy is. Um, so when I started hanging out more with people in the community, I heard about Stone Cold Hockey, and I think you and I actually did a little Stone Cold Hockey demo on the channel one night. And then I also heard about Shootout Hockey, but I think it was at IndyCon last year that I met Gary Brown, and Gary showed me his Stone Cold Hockey, and we played some back and forth face to face, and so I purchased the game from Gary on the spot, and that was kind of the beginning of my project. So we played Stone Cold at D2D Con, and it was fun.
Mhm.
Um, and then just out of the blue at D2D Con, I win a copy of 49 Quick Decks. I think it was like a leftover thing, and Grant hadn't gotten the thing out there, and so we just dumped all the extra tickets in, and my name got pulled, and so I brought home this copy of 49 Quick Decks Hockey. So I decided to incorporate that into my project for the final round.
Okay. I actually think that James Cast won that, but Mike Canistrari did want to give James a sixth or seventh prize, and so he
Oh
couldn't.
yeah, yeah. Maybe that's how all the extra tickets got
I
dumped in.
think I whispered to
Because
Mike. I
James,
says,
but the thing is, James will play all of those games. He will
"Yes."
probably play all of those games in the same day,
Mhm.
and then he'll get on his podcast. I was just listening to his most recent podcast today on my walk after work. He would probably play all 7 of those games on the same day and report the highlights to us on his next
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
So more
Yeah, it was
power to
funny.
him.
He just kept winning and winning. It was just it was funny that he kept winning. Um,
Yeah, and he's a machine too. I mean, yeah, every week,
oh yeah.
I did some wrestling this week, and I did
Yes.
32 gaming sessions, and I got 86 games played and 15 different games on the table. And it's like, dude, where do you find the time? Because
Yeah.
he's a family man and works, and
Now he's doing that
you know,
second podcast, the Play
and
podcast
yeah,
with
and he's
Al
and he's doing
Wilson
the play
and
podcast.
yeah.
So, but great guy. I love James, but he's a bad influence, man.
He plays a lot of games. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
fun. So okay, so you got the 49 highlight hockey, and you played a little bit of shootout, and also the Stone Cold. I like the Stone Cold. I think it's a little bit of narrative, and it's just kind of a
Mhm.
plays like a play game where you kind of follow along. Are they at 8? Are they at 9? Are they a 10? Whatever it is, and that's where you go to find on the chart. Obviously the better the number, the more chances you're going to get to score, and then you finally get down and you can take an outside shot or whatever it is, or a blue line shot, and it's going to be far less of a chance to score. And then you
Mhm.
factor in the goalie, and it's really well done. It's a lot of fun. I really like playing that one. There's a computer version which is pretty faithful to the tabletop version. However, I still like the tabletop version. I just some reason I just enjoy playing that more than a computer version. And there's nothing wrong with the
Yeah.
computer
Yeah.
version. You got the logos in there and it stands and it keeps your stats, but the tabletop one is pretty cool. So that is a very, very fun game. So you started playing the 49 highlight hockey, right?
I started with the Stone Cold
Yeah.
and did that, and then when I won the 49 Quick Decks, I worked that into the to the tournament as well.
Okay. So so let's talk about this tournament here. So what
Yeah.
was the tournament that you did? Okay, so and what games did you use?
I started with Stone Cold, and when I bought Stone Cold, it was with the 23-24 player set. So that was the season I used, and I set up the tournament. Now, when I do a tournament, at least in this case, it's not a single elimination, or it's not even an elimination thing. It's what they call a Swiss tournament, where every team plays every round, and you don't get eliminated, and you don't get home. But what happens is, as you know the teams with more victories go higher on the scale, and they kind of play off against each other, and then the teams with the lower ratings, as you drop down, play against each other. So I ended up playing a total of 5 games with all 32 teams. So it was a total of an 80 game project.
Now, did you play the full version of 49 Quick Text, or did you play the highlight version?
I played the full version.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
and I brought that in for round 5, which was every team's final game.
Oh, nice. I find that did you try the highlight version of that or just the full play?
No, I just tried the full play.
Yeah. I started with the full play. Grant sat me down in Colorado and were walking me through it, and I thought I was playing the quick version. I was, and then I says, "Okay, let's try the long version." He goes, "No, you are playing the longer version, and the quick version plays much
So
faster."
how's the quick version work compared to the long version?
With the quick version, I think what you do is again, I haven't played it in a couple of months. You figure out how many cards you're going to flip, and you just read off that card. So it could be, you might have 6 cards in the first period. So you flip and you just follow along like you do in the game, and that's the end of that segment there. So you're not going minute by minute. You're going almost like a Stone Cold or a shootout.
Yeah,
Like
like Stone Cold, where you
yeah, how many minutes go by? Let's stop and take a look. So that's what you're doing here. So, but
yeah,
instead of minutes, it's
that
like
makes sense.
there's 6 cards in this period. So you flip over card 1 and you follow it up. So you get a lot more scoring because you're stopping the game and looking at segments. And so you're going to get a lot more goals on these cards than you will playing the full game. Um, and it's but when I like to say that when I play the highlight game, I feel like I played a full game. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. It's weird how it works, but it works really, really well. And when you play the full game, as you were playing, I found that to be very intense. It was a very intense experience for hockey for me that not a lot of games provided, but that one I felt was very intense. The highlight one I enjoyed because I could bang it out in 20 minutes or so and get my results and get all my stats. And I felt like I still played a full game almost. And but when you play the extended version there, it's very intense. So there's two different versions of the game. The highlight plays quicker. I kept gravitating toward the highlight because I just felt like I was getting enough hockey out of that I didn't need to play the full game. So that's just kind of how I did it.
Yeah.
So what were some of the challenges in learning hockey games compared to baseball and the basketball games that you played?
I think the both the games I played were very intuitive. Stone Cold hockey, especially, like you say, you count off the minutes, you have a play, maybe it's a goal, and then you go find the goal scorer, and you see people get you see who the players are that score the most, and who the players are that assist the most, and it really gives you for my purposes of to me, this may as well be a fictitious game.
Mhm.
There's just a handful of the guys I've heard of. Maybe ones that have come through University of Wisconsin, because I'm in Madison, and you hear
Mhm.
local stuff about them. But in a lot of cases, you kind of discover a guy through the game, and then I would, oh, okay, here's a guy that had a real good game, and then I'd go look at highlights on YouTube of what this guy was
Oh yeah,
like, and,
yeah.
kind of get to know the guy. Stone Cold was a lot of fun because, and I know you're not big into the hockey fights, but Stone Cold has fights,
Mhm.
and in the fights there's a winner,
Hmm.
and it changes the momentum of the game when somebody
Yes.
wins a fight, and
Yep.
it's kind of a cool dynamic because that's how it works in hockey.
Yeah.
Guys in hockey generally do not fight for the purpose of hurting each other. They fight to protect their teammates, and there are designated guys on
Hmm.
the team that are supposed to fight, and there's kind of a code of honor. When a guy goes down, you stop punching him, and
Hmm.
it's all it's all integrated well into the game. But then, one game I had the same guy got into two fights, and I thought, yeah, how cool is that? And so I looked at that guy and watched the stuff he did on YouTube. And who was the first guy I discovered? Tyler Toffoli or something like that.
Really? Okay.
Well, no, he wasn't. I didn't see him in a fight, but I saw, he had a really good game, and he was kind of the first guy that
Hmm.
drew my attention to in YouTube. And it seemed like every year he was on a different team, and the team that he was on when I saw him play, and you can see here's a video of all 30 of Tyler Toffoli's goals that he scored this year. And so you can really see that and get a sense of how the guy plays and how he interacts with his teammates. And is he skating up and down the ice at full speed? Is he hanging around the net just waiting to bang the puck in? Is it was really, I learned a lot about hockey players from doing that.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, as far as fights, I'm not a big fan of the fighting thing. I never have been. But when it happens in a tabletop game or a computer game, and it has some sort of effect on the game, I'm kind of okay with it. I think Hockey Blast does that too. Is that when they have a fight, sometimes it swings the momentum who wins the fight. If you want to go like that, I think it definitely gets rid of some of the things in the game as far as when you get a cheap shot. If you have a fight, it gets rid of the cheap shot thing there.
Mhm.
But yeah, so with the Stone Cold there, and you have the fight, and you have the momentum and things like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
you have the it's not it's like the fatigue or
yeah,
the damage meter, which I thought was really cool just in a lot of ways. Because not only did that come into play with the fights, but a big hit, boom,
right.
and your team loses a point of momentum, and then you're getting down to the end of the game, and if your team has X amount of momentum, they can shoot. But if not, if they're too beaten down, then they don't play as well. So I thought that was a real neat dynamic with that game.
But yeah, with Stone Cold, what's really great about that is even if you get a penalty. So you lose a point, a hit point. I forget what they called now. It was yeah, it's a track that you keep track of there,
Yeah,
and so you lose a point there. The other team goes on a power play, but over time, you know, it'll come
I
down to
I think it's the other way. If you blast a guy, you get the penalty, but the other guy loses a point of fatigue.
yeah. That's what I'm getting is
Yeah,
that
okay, yeah, you're
you
right.
take the penalty, so it's a chance for them to score, but you've knocked them down. And
Exactly. Yeah,
there was a
yeah.
game that Ron and I played when we were testing this out. It was the Sabres and the Flyers in the '70s. And Buffalo lost all 10 points. They had 0. And so anytime there was and it was a 1-0 game, and it just felt like the Flyers were okay with just beating them up. And so anytime there was some call for, who has the most of these points there, Buffalo couldn't win because they had none. And the Flyers probably had 5 or 6, but it just so the Flyers took a ton of penalties. But every time that come, okay, which team has the higher rating here? Or what's left? And Buffalo lost them all because they had nothing. They got beat up, and it just felt like a '70s hockey game. It was really kind of neat the way they did that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
The other cool thing that Stone Cold did was their injury system. If there was an injury,
oh yes,
it
yes,
it it
yes,
it just subtracted a point of something from the overall team, and you didn't have to pull a
hmm
guy out or keep track of a guy having a bad arm or a bad leg. It was just okay. This team loses 1 point worth of their control factor or 1 point of
yeah,
their
or their
aggressiveness
defense or
or what
something.
have you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So it affected the whole team, and you didn't really have to worry about who. It was just kind of like, well, that's going to bring the
yeah.
team down. The team, yes, yeah. Stone Cold did some great things. It was really kind of fun. Um, what were some of your favorite things about playing hockey games?
Yeah, I really liked 49 Quick Decks. um, because you could see, much more of the stuff happening. Stone Cold is more of a team versus team game, and stuff
Hmm.
happens to the team, and then you score a goal, and you go look at the card to see who got the goal. And but in 49 quick decks, you really saw the plays develop. You know, and it did a good job of identifying individual players. Look at this guy, and if this guy has this create rating or this pass rating or this hitting rating or whatever, they make a play. And if they don't, they don't, and you go on to the next
Mm.
the next thing. And I think there was a guy Svechnikov or something who had like a 20 hitting rating, and he annihilated like three guys in this game I was playing. It's like, man, I got to go see this guy because he just
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
wiping people out.
Yeah.
And so really the way that 49 Quick Decks is set up, you see how each individual player contributes to the play, and then you see the play kind of evolve, and oh, okay, here's so and so, and he passed the puck over to so and so, and so and so got the goal, and it really showed the how the individual talents of each of these guys came into play, and that gave me again that added level of familiarity of who these guys are.
Right. Okay. Um, do you think it was harder trying to learn hockey compared to, say, let's say you pick up a new basketball game or a new baseball game, and now you're playing hockey? You think it was harder picking up on a game that was a little lesser known to you, as far a sport that's lesser known to you?
Um, in terms of the players,
Okay.
you know who are the players that you use. I follow the NBA. I can name all the stars from all the teams, and so I know when I pull out the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's Anthony Edwards, and if I pull out the Bucks, who are my team, it's going to be Giannis, and it's going to be Bobby Portis, and I know what to expect and who to expect it from. Um, and to some extent, baseball is the same way. Uh, but yeah, pulling out hockey, it's like you're opening a book that, from a brand new author that you've never read any of their stuff before, and you really have no idea what you're getting yourself
Mm.
into.
For me, playing basketball where I really don't know anything about the positions, okay? I should try to learn this, but for me,
Mhm.
I think back to the late '70s, early '80s basketball with Bird and Kareem and all those guys, and that's what I enjoyed watching. And they just introduced the 3-point shot, so it wasn't like it is today, but it was pretty special back then. But not knowing positions, not knowing about like double coverage and who's open and who's not, and all the lingo and things that have. There's a handful of basketball games I have trouble with because I don't know any of that stuff. I don't know who's supposed to guard who, and I don't know who's supposed to do what. And so I need to find games that I don't know. I don't need to know basketball, if that makes any sense. I need to find a game that's going to play basketball, but it's okay if I don't know everything about it. And one of those games is the bank shot, because it tells you who's going up against who, and I like that. And then it tells you, and when you roll the dice, you find out who wins that matchup, or the fast action card tells you who wins the matchup. So I really don't have to know the game all that much to play bank shot basketball. Whereas some other games, it's again, are you open? Are you double covered? Are you this? Are you that?
Mhm.
Who's covering who? I just don't know. I don't know that stuff. So for me, playing basketball, I really like to find the games that let you play basketball without, I don't want to say punishing. That's not the right word, but I guess maybe punishing you for not knowing the game. Did you get that
Mhm.
feeling with hockey at all, that you wanted to find a game that you didn't have to know everything about hockey?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what tripped me up with Strat when I experimented with Strat. You had to make a decision about how you were going to run a play, and I didn't know what to decide. And that proved to be an obstacle. And so, yeah, I can see that in basketball. Basketball is largely a game of matchups.
Yes.
Whereas, football is a game of assignments and baseball is a game of, everybody takes their turn. And I think hockey is probably more like football in the sense that, it seems like there's a lot more flow of the players around the court in different spots, and they all have assignments. And I couldn't tell you who guards who in hockey because they're all moving around in a
Yeah.
circle
Yeah.
and they're moving the puck around, and it's really it's a neat sport to watch. But yeah, basketball is very much a game of matchups, and it, finding one player who can exploit another player in basketball makes much more strategic importance
Mm.
than I think in about any other sport. Have you done like a basketball project, or do you do just sort of one offs, or
I just been
what's
playing
been
the
your
one-offs
experience?
right now with
Hmm.
basketball, and I've enjoyed that. I like playing different games. I did jump into the was it the 75, 76 ABA co-op project, and I was using bank shot basketball with that because they had that, and I did play 1 or 2 games with that, and I played a couple of the quicker play games with that as well. The baseline basketball from John Turnbull, I really, really like. It's a nice fast play game that you can get some final scores from. And also there's a Downey game, player of the game basketball from Downey. I really like. It's more of a math equation than anything else, but it,
Is
but it
that the one where you were playing on your channel where you roll for a segment, and in the segment you
no,
assign a or
that was the
that
regular
was
season.
regular season
Yeah,
basketball? Yeah, I remember.
that's another great game. And if they had
Yeah.
that season for the ABA, I would be grabbing that, but they don't have that particular season for that particular project. No, the player of the game basketball, that was the one that, you figure out who's on your, your bench that game, the starters and the bench guys, and then there's a team number you factor in, and it's kind of a math problem, but it's kind of fun. So when you're all set up and done, you start rolling dice with the bottom guys. This guy you roll 1 die. That's how many points you get. This guy you roll 2 die. That's how many points you get. And then as you get to the top guys, they're rolling 5, 6, maybe 7 dice to see how many points they get. And you're kind of building the score from the bench guys to the starters, and you watch the score kind of rise. And that's really fun how that works there. And the thing about that one is you need to know nothing about basketball.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it fun. So, because I don't have a lot of basketball knowledge, and I try to play some games, and they're asking for this guy covering this guy, and he's going up against it. Like with hockey, I know all about it. Who's his opponent? Well, it's the left wing and the right D. I just know that instinctively. In basketball, I don't know that, and so sometimes I get really confused at that. I don't know any of the positions or where they go. I just like to kind of play casually with basketball. That's the thing,
Sure.
and some people enjoy that same thing with hockey. Um, so yeah, so I guess for me, um knowing hockey, I'm probably a little bit more hard on the hockey games. And I don't know if I think I might have asked you this the last time we talked. Are you a little bit more harder on the basketball games because you know basketball?
I'd say yeah. If I see something that that just obviously isn't right, then yeah, I'm gonna call that out. I think my experience with hockey, it felt like there were times when in 49 quick decks, it felt like there was a lot of penalties, but I had no idea. If
Mm,
there's 3 penalties in a period, is that a lot? Is that not very many? Is that about average? Some games there would be almost no penalties. And on the other hand, with basketball, I have a good sense of how many fouls are going to be committed by a given player and a given team, and how many free throws. And if it looks like one team's hitting way too high a percentage of 3 pointers, or getting way too many fouls called against them or something, yeah, I think just knowing basketball better, I can pick up on those things and say, hey, this doesn't feel right. And with hockey, I had less of a sense of that. So after a while, I just quit worrying and decided to go with the flow.
mm. I think I've asked you this before the last time you were on. Do you think you can have more fun playing a game that you don't know, like, all the rules, compared to a game like basketball where you, like, really, really know the game really well? Do you think you could just have more fun because it's loosey goosey?
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to both. Um, if you do let go and just enjoy the ride, and you don't know the game very much, um, then yeah, you can have fun because it's less stressful.
Mm,
There's this kind of nagging feeling in the back of your mind: did I really do this right? And then you think, well, it's a replay game. I
yeah.
came home, I had dinner, I played. Now I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to get up and go to work tomorrow. So if I did, this or that wrong on a game on my tabletop, you know, it's not going to make a difference in terms of world peace or
Yeah.
starvation. Um, but then, yeah, when I get into a basketball game or something that I'm really much more analytical and much more passionate about, then it's also stimulating and engaging and fun, but just in a different way.
Do you think, and I probably asked you this one before too, um, with football, it's straightforward. You run the play, you know. In baseball, it's batter against hitter.
Hmm.
Basketball, you have the possession of the ball, you know. Hockey, that puck bounces around 20 or 30 times a minute and it can go anywhere. Um, do you think that makes hockey games tougher to play and maybe tougher to create because how do you in 15 to 20 seconds of football you run the play and that's what happens. In baseball you get a hit and so many things happen. And then basketball you control the ball and shoot. But hockey, there's it's kind of it can be all over the place. It's so fast. Do you think that's kind it's maybe tougher to put together a hockey game?
Yeah, not being a game creator and not being a hockey, stats expert, um, I'm not sure how to answer that. But 49 Quick Decks was beautiful because it would say, this team's got control of the puck.
Mm,
But if their players don't have this particular ability, or the other team has a great defender, then they'll steal the puck and move it down to the other side. And you could just see those events kind of playing out in your mind. And then, the way you move the puck from one side to the other and back to the other, and who's got possession and where's the puck. And really just the way the game pieces move on the tabletop in quick decks really captures that. And so I thought that was there was some complexity to it, but there was also just a beauty in it. The game that I have the most difficulty with is football,
really? Okay.
because football is so much about what play the offense calls and what play the defense calls, and did the defense get the play right, or did the offense confuse the defense somehow, and it's so much about, oh gosh, I picked the wrong play, or oh gosh, I picked the wrong defense. And I have always especially struggled with head-to-head football because the guy across the table from me seems like he's always way smarter than I am, and he's way ahead of me, and that seems to have such a big impact on the outcome of any given football play that to me that would be the hardest thing if I were designing a game. That would be the hardest thing to replicate, is how to get that piece of it right.
Hmm. Hmm. Again, we're talking here with Dave Little as he's been playing some hockey games, and again, he's kind of known as the basketball guy in our community here. Um, what are some of the things that you've come across playing hockey? I'm not saying you're unfamiliar with hockey, but I think you're more familiar with basketball and things like that. What are some of the things or some of the
Yeah.
challenges you come across playing a lesser known game?
I think expectations of the players. You see this list of players, and who should I be paying attention to? Who's gonna
Yep.
be, who should I expect to excel? I mean, I've heard of Wayne Gretzky, and I've heard of Bobby Orr, and some of the more famous ones, the Esposito brothers. But for current hockey, I don't know more than a half dozen of the players. And so when you see this big list of players,
Mm,
um, knowing what to expect, and even the teams, I couldn't tell you which team should be, should if a game ends up 7-0, is it because there was really, that much
Yeah.
difference between the quality of the teams, or was it a quirk, or was it something I did wrong, or kind of, does the outcome really match, reality, or at least, within the realm of reality versus, is this game completely out of whack? I have a better sense of that in basketball. If a guy is tearing it up, or if a guy is struggling, yeah, well, that guy stinks. Of course, he should struggle. That guy shouldn't be shooting the ball 15 times a game.
Yeah.
Versus, yeah, here's somebody that excels, and I expect them to excel. So I think that's kind of where the expectations coming in, and how that plays out over the course of a game and out over the course of a tournament.
I think I'm kind of the same way with basketball, whereas I don't know all the ins and out of it. And sometimes I'm playing, it's like, boy, I must be playing it wrong because I'm getting these results and this is happening here. And I start doubting myself because I just don't know enough about the game, and I start to think, is this really how basketball is? Or am I making some mistakes while I'm playing the game? That's some of the things that I run
Yeah.
into when I play
Mhm.
basketball compared to hockey. I find that, and let me ask you this too: do you find, okay? I'm just assuming here that you are, you know more about the other sports than hockey. Can I just assume that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I know the least about basketball. Okay, obviously hockey, football, baseball, I tend to know way more than basketball. I find that there's almost like an ignorant bliss when I play basketball because I don't know
Yeah.
much about it and I can enjoy it for what it is and not pick it apart like I can, especially a hockey game or a football game, because I really don't know how often this happens. Was this something rare that happened, or does it happen all the time? I could just kind of enjoy it without picking it apart when I play basketball. Do you get that maybe with hockey?
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Very much. I did. It was like, here's two teams. Here's a bunch of guys. Let's throw them out there and see what happens. And then a guy stands out, and you go look him up on YouTube. There was one dude, I forget his name, but he played real well in a hockey game, so I went and looked him up on YouTube, and it turns out this guy was one of the biggest jokesters there was, and half of his highlights are him, making his teammates laugh, or him,
Yeah.
doing goofy stuff that, added some flavor to watching the game, and it was like, oh yeah, that was cool, that was fun to watch. But yeah, there is a certain freedom when, it's just like a wide open book that, writes itself as you go along.
Yeah. I tell this story sometimes. I think I was mentioning this to the replay gamer when I had him on. Is I went to when I was just out of high school, I drove across country to California, okay? And I
Hmm.
drove across in a Ford Fiat, 4 speed, no overdrive. And me and my buddy were 18. We drove to
So manual.
manual, drove it. It had a hard time getting through the Rocky Mountains. We almost didn't make it. It was the air was
I can
thinner and the
imagine.
car.
Yeah.
And then we got through the Mojave Desert. We overheated a little bit. But we got it to his Air Force base in California. Okay. Um, and it just it and I forget where I was going with this here, but it was very different. It was something that we did that was so different. And when I play basketball games, it's so different. And when you were playing hockey games, it must have felt really different.
It did. Yeah. In a good way. Because it's, like an open book, and it's a story that writes itself as you go along, and it was just fun to go through that discovery process.
Yeah, I actually enjoy the again the blissfulness of playing basketball because I don't know everything about it and I can just enjoy it. And sometimes if something rare happens, I don't even know. I don't even know because I don't know enough about the game. Whereas hockey, I'm real critical. I really am. I'm real critical about that. Um, anyway, what are some of your favorite things that you found when you started playing some of these hockey games?
Yeah, the players, the action, um, and just the whole seeing how the game action builds itself out. With any sport, any game I watch, I'm very analytical. So if I start watching a thing on TV and the score of the hockey game is 5-0, I want to know why. I want to know what makes this one
Hmm.
team so good, or is the other team bad, or is they just having a bad night, or is there a key player that's injured or something? And so I'm as a fan of any sport, whatever I'm watching, I'm very analytical. Um, and so that's kind of part of the fun of getting these new games, is to see not only what happens and who stands out, but why. And if it's a game like 49 Quick Decks, you've got each player has what 10 or 12 different ratings, and you
Mm.
can see why on any given situation they were successful or not successful. And to me, that really stimulates my imagination, and really stimulates my enthusiasm.
Do you think you can enjoy a game like I can enjoy basketball games a lot more because I'm not that critical because I don't
Mhm.
know it as much. Do you think with any sport, like like auto racing? I don't know much about auto racing, but I could play an auto racing game and have some fun with it because I'm not worried about every little thing that I am when I
Mhm.
play hockey games or football games.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. Hockey. I did a project with red, white, and blue racing, and I don't know anything about racing, but it was fun to see the guys knock each other around. History maker golf. You just kind of play and enjoy it. The only game that I struggle with is football,
Really?
because if you end up with a low scoring game, oh, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not calling the right plays. I'm not I'm not making the right decisions that are leading to these unrealistic options, because football is such a game of decisions.
And yeah, and just depending what happens on first down or second down will determine what you do on third down. And some teams just ran all the time. And some teams passed all the time. And what I try to do is go look when I play a game to see what their percentages of passing and running were. And then from there I can say, okay, I'm going to try to call more passes or more runs for this team. Even on 3rd and 5, I might run it with a running team, when I'm calling the plays. So, do you ever play quick play games?
Very infrequently, because I am a huge stats guy, and if I'm going to play a game, I want to see how the stats come out. And quick play games that don't provide a lot of stats, I find less engaging.
Hmm.
Um, I liked the John Turnbull games. We're coming up on the NHL playoffs. We're coming up on the
Hmm.
NBA playoffs. It would be really cool, and I don't know how fast any of these players can, or any of these designers can put out a roster at the end of a season. If John Turnbull has his hockey sets or his basketball sets done right at the end of the season, it would be a lot of fun to pre-play playoffs
Yeah,
as
yeah,
they're going along.
yeah.
The NHL playoffs, and if you could have those teams and run those right in sequence with the regular playoffs and see how they're happening, that would be a lot of fun.
I think Al Wilson snuck out his football playoff teams right before the playoffs this year. I think he did.
Mm.
'Cause I think I played a couple, then I got backed up with work and I couldn't
Yeah,
get to
that's
it.
and that's and I looked at the calendar. Um, Both the NHL and the NBA playoffs start right around IndyCon.
Mhm.
So John Turnbull, if you are listening,
Yeah.
add to my wish list that I would love to get. It doesn't have to be both of them, one or the other,
Yeah.
in time for a pre-play of the playoffs, and I would be all in for that. But as a rule, I don't do a lot of quick play because I'm a big stats guy.
Okay. I really enjoy his baseline basketball. I really enjoy that. In fact, I stole some of his logos. Well, he said I could, and I created a 4 team league in Ohio with the 4 cities. I think I got Cleveland, Dayton, and I forget the other 2 teams, but I have 4 teams, and I'm just playing for final scores. So I'm just whatever ratings I win it. So he created all these generic teams. Did you know that? He's
Yeah, I think I'd heard that from him on one of his podcasts or
Yeah.
something.
So I went in and I just kind of like did random dice rolls and just locked in some of these teams. So I said, okay, number 44. So number 44 is going to be this team. That's going to be Dayton. I roll again. Number 72. 72 is going to be, Cleveland or whatever it is. And so I did 4 teams and I took his logos and I created a 4-team league. And I'm just going to have them each other play. I think, 2 home, 2 away, something like that. Just going to have everybody play each other, small league, and then have playoffs and see how it goes using his baseline basketball. And it plays really quick and it's just a lot of fun. And I can already see who the worst team is, who's going to go nowhere. And I think when I'm done the season in the playoffs, I'm gonna probably like rank them best to worst, and I'm gonna roll to see if any of them want to relocate. And the worse you are, the more
Hmm.
chances of relocating. The best you are, the best you're going to stay. And I'm even thinking about rolling to see if I can add another couple of teams to this little experimental league in Ohio. I think it's just called the OBA, Ohio Basketball Association, something like that. And it's been fun, just kind of rolling dice and getting
Yeah.
scores with these fictional teams that he kind of come up with some generic ratings that were different, and you could see some teams are clearly better. But it's been kind of fun. And one thing I did because it was fictional and it was my league. At the end of 4 quarters, if you're tied, it's a tie. We don't go to
Okay.
overtime. It's a tie. So you could, like in hockey in the 70s, you can have ties. And in my basketball league, and I thought it was kind of fun. So I've played a couple of games for each team, and I posted some of the results, and it's been
Yeah.
fun. And I'm not
Yes.
keeping stats for teams. I'm not keeping rebounds. I'm not keeping any of that. I'm just keeping the final score. And it's been
Mhm.
fun playing his game. I think that's my favorite game of John Turnbull is the baseline
Yes.
basketball. And
It's
and David, maybe because I'm such a casual basketball player that I can really enjoy it, whereas the hockey and
yeah.
the football I'm a little more rabid about.
Hmm. Makes sense.
So I don't have to sit there and pick it apart about all this other stuff. I can just play this game and be done with it, and enjoy it. And that's what I really, really enjoy about playing basketball games is I can play these games. I don't have any pressure because I don't know enough about the teams and the players. I can just play it and enjoy it. And whether I'm playing a quick play game, like I like the regular season basketball. And
Mhm.
sometimes I keep stats and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just play the game. The baseline basketball, I don't keep any stats. I just roll the dice and get the game. Bank shot basketball, that's a long, long game, but I still enjoy playing it. I'm trying to come up with some kind of a tournament or a series that I can play where I don't have to play a full game. That I can play a quarter or something like that, and still get the game in and not have to worry about playing an hour and a half or 2 hour game because I do like the game, and if I could just shrink the game time down, I could play more of that. So for me, basketball, I enjoy it because I'm a casual player. I
Yeah.
really am. And with hockey, I'm more intense, and football, I'm more intense. Baseball, I'm in the middle of the road. But do you get that feeling sometimes? It's like the more that you know a sport, it's a little tougher to play because you're more critical, and the less you know a
Hmm.
sport, maybe you have a little bit more blissful fun.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Hockey was like that, and basketball's like that because I'm very deep in the weeds with basketball stuff, and so I pay very close attention to all the stuff, and if it doesn't look and feel real, then yeah, I'm a lot more sensitive to that.
Hmm. What are some of your before we go? What are some of your favorite teams and some of your favorite seasons for hockey?
Um, I would start with 2023-24 because that's the one I just the one I just played. And at the NHL level, I have very little experience with hockey. Now because in Columbus, Ohio, where I grew up, there's not it was long before the Blue Jackets. There was not a professional hockey team anywhere within. I think Detroit would have been the closest
Yeah. Yep.
pro hockey team to Columbus. So there just wasn't the connection for me,
Hmm.
and so I didn't grow up paying attention to a particular team or a particular player or what have you. It was fun to go to the minor league games in Columbus and Dayton, and hockey's a lot of fun to watch. But in terms of a connection to a team or a player, that never became a thing. I moved from Ohio to Madison, Wisconsin in 2010, and that was right when the Chicago Blackhawks were having their Stanley Cup run.
Hmm.
And so there were a lot of Blackhawks fans in the neighborhood, and I got to sort of start watching hockey and enjoying the Blackhawks. And of course, University of Wisconsin hockey, both men's and women's, is very, very successful, and so there's a lot of passion
Yes,
around.
yes, yes.
There's a lot of passion around college hockey here in Madison, and so that kind of stimulates my appreciation seeing that passion. So I think I can remember from the 2009 2010. I think that was the year the Blackhawks won. You probably know better than I do. Um, but yeah, I remember Patrick Kane was on that team, and that's the name that stands out. There was somebody named Hosa.
Yep,
Just
Marion
just a
Hossa.
couple of
Yep.
random names that kind of stand out from that. So if I get a hankering to do another hockey project, I might do that and pick up the Chicago Blackhawks.
Nice, nice. One last question. When it comes to playing the hockey games, did you feel anything was missing? So, for what you've watched the hockey and know of hockey, and then translated it to the tabletop of some of these games that you played, was there anything that you thought might have been missing from a game? Like, oh man, I know they probably can't put this in the game, but I do kind of miss having this in the game.
I think nothing that really absolutely stood out, but comparing the Stone Cold experience to the 49 Quick Decks experience, you can see different dynamics of the different games that kind of made me feel like,
Mm.
oh, okay, if this game did that, or if that game did this, it would be a more complete experience. And so there was some of that, but I can't say there was anything that I really felt was missing from the experience. I played a total of 80 games of hockey on the tabletop
Oh
to
wow, yeah,
get through the tournament, and it was
yeah.
I enjoyed the experience.
Now the Stone Cold's a lot quicker game than
Yeah.
the 49 Quick Decks hockey there. Which one did you enjoy better? Did you enjoy playing the Stone Cold? Were you kind of doing it in chunks, or did you enjoy playing the minute by minute?
I think I enjoyed the minute by minute better. Um, but yeah, when I first started playing 49 Quick Decks, it was taking me about an hour per period, and I could not play a game of Stone Cold on a single work night. I could play maybe two periods, and then I'll pick up period three tomorrow night. Maybe on a weekend I could get a whole game in because you got a longer period of time. But
Hmm.
by the end, after I'd gotten a few games of 49 quick decks under my belt, I could do it in the amount of time I have from when I finish dinner to when I go to bed. And so that was kind of when I got to that point, I really enjoyed the play by play experience. I think more than 6 minutes go by and nothing happens and you see a highlight.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah,
just my taste.
yeah.
I loved being able to sit down. The other difference is that the footprint of 49 quick decks hockey is pretty substantial.
Mm.
Um, and Stone Cold you could play more on
Yeah,
a
compact.
smaller
Yeah, yeah,
in a smaller space, and that also makes it easier to throw it on the table, play a game at night, finish it up, put it away, and
yeah.
and and be done with it. Whereas, to play a full game of 49 quick decks was much more of a commitment because you got to spread it
Yes,
all
yeah,
out on the table and put everything out there, and then take the time to play through it. But that having been said, it really gave me a richer appreciation of what players do well and what players do better than other players, and how the whole hockey team is put together.
mm. So again, we've been here with Dave Little in episode 303, and we've been talking about playing lesser known games, at least lesser known games to you or us or him or me. So what was your overall experience playing a bunch of hockey? Not that you've never played hockey, but being the basketball guy and a whole bit. What were some of your final thoughts about playing a game that maybe you're not quite as familiar with as other ones?
Loved it. It was a real discovery process. Learned a lot about the mechanics of hockey and what makes players and teams good. Identified some players that I can now, if I throw on a hockey game and I
Yeah.
see something happen, or the YouTube highlights that come across my feed, and oh yeah, I remember that guy. He was
Yeah.
in my game, and so on. So yeah, I mean, it was great fun learning hockey, and it was great fun learning the players and learning some of the teams, and hopefully that will help me get more engaged. The NHL playoffs are coming up, and I've always tried to watch those over the years, and so yeah, this was all kinds of fun.
Nice, nice. I found the same way with basketball. I could just kind
Yeah.
of enjoy it, and it's almost like discovering a new sport. You know what I mean? Because I've been so deep into the hockey and the football and baseball that when I'm playing basketball, which I was casual guy, I'm enjoying discovering basketball games and see how they play. And there's really no pressure on me because it's not not my game. Hockey's my game, and so I can kind of play this and just kind of enjoy it. So, anyway, all right. Well, before we go, we do have to get to our 3 stars of the week, Dave. All righty.
All
So,
right.
we need to
Yeah.
do that. So, and this is episode 303 to Digital to Dice, and our 3 stars in no particular order. Number 3 star is Rob Hinkle. Rob, thank you so
Woohoo!
much. Yeah, for supporting the show. Again, these are our Patreon supporters. And number 2, Joel Hill. Joel, thank you so much
Let's
for
go,
the support
Joel.
of Digital to Dice. And our number 1 star, the one, the only Swedish Jeff.
Woo!
Jeff, thank you so much. And Rob and Joel, thank you so much for supporting the show and keeping us going as we're in year 7 of this, Dave, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
We've had a good time with this. Anyway, ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com. That is the website. 978-751-DICE is the text line. Digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. Dave Little, thanks for coming on the show again. Appreciated
Thanks
you
for the
coming by.
invite. Yeah. It's
We had a
great.
fun time. And we'll be getting together again. I know we're going to be either playing some basketball, some hockey on YouTube together again, as we do once in a while. And we always have a fun time with that. So, again, thank you for coming by, Digital to Dice.
Thanks for the invite.
All right. Until next time, everyone. Bye-bye. All righty. So we